And when I was on the flight, I had my ear pods in, and I was hearing like a little tiny ring, and I was like, oh, it's just from the AirPods. And then I took them out, and I was like, oh, no, it's not. It's constant. So got to my hotel room, did what you shouldn't really do, and got on the computer, started Googling. I have a ring in my ear. And once I did that, you read everything horrible, and I just spiraled out of control, and went into fight or flight, panic, just all the things. And the ringing actually was getting louder because I was in that panic mode. So when the trip was over, I came home and just spiraled even deeper. So I started Googling uh, tinnitus coaches, and you came up. So I reached out to you, and you reached out very quickly, and I got right on board with your program and your coaching sessions, which helped me immensely. Like I don't think if I reached out to you, I would be where I am today, which is yes, I do have tinnitus, but I'm absolutely 100% habituated to it.
If you just watch the start of this video, then it's very likely that you are dealing with tinnitus, whether you are constantly annoyed, upset, are not getting the quality of sleep that you need, can't really concentrate at work because of your tinnitus, then that video that we have coming up for you is going to be hopefully inspiring you to make some changes. Today in this video, I'm talking to Michelle. Michelle shares her insights into her path with tinnitus, really from when she started dealing with tinnitus to becoming habituated and not really caring about her tinnitus anymore. And she's been a member of my online tinnitus coaching program. So I've worked with her in one-on-one tinnitus coaching sessions. She has also joined our online habituation program inside the Tinnitus Club with the courses, etc. But in today's story that Michelle shares, she talks about everything that she'd experienced from the onset of tinnitus to really being super anxious, constantly in fight or flight, having no energy, struggling to sleep, struggling to cope with daily activities and tasks, and how she got out of that. And I hope that this is a helpful video for you. I also want to announce a new format now for the year 2024. So if you want to be audited or coached by me for your individual tinnitus situation, then there's a link below the video that you can click and apply to get a free 30 minutes coaching session with me. That is if you agree that we share the session afterwards on YouTube to benefit and help other people as well. It's something that I thought as a new form of how can we help more people, how can we get more amazing content out there in the year 2024. So if you want to be getting a free coaching session from me for your individual tinnitus situation to help you habituate and leave tinnitus behind to the point where your brain starts understanding that tinnitus is not a threat, then simply click the link below. And now I want to wish you a lot of fun with the video that I did together with Michelle, where she talks about her story with tinnitus and how she managed to habituate and include tinnitus in her life rather than constantly struggling against it. Enjoy.
Okay, well, today we've got Michelle with us here. So, Michelle, thanks so much for coming on and for talking to me. It's been a while since we last connected. We've been working together in tinnitus coaching sessions, and you've also been a very, very valued member inside our Tinnitus Club community. So, thank you so much for making it today, Michelle. And I mean, thank you for taking the time to sharing a little bit about your story and maybe a little bit about what's been helpful for you and what you found along the way for other people who are dealing with tinnitus. So welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. So happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. Why don't you share a little bit with the people who are listening about what your tinnitus journey was, how it started, and what your experience was, maybe?
Okay, sure. I'd love to. So I had been having this was last year, 2022. I had my left ear just was clogged for like 6 months, and I had been back and forth to the doctor, and uh, I mean, just it just was clogged. I'd really, we don't really know why it just was
Mm,
clogged, because today it is not clogged.
mm,
I did have a lot of wax buildup
mm,
and um, that kind of thing. But
mm,
with the tinnitus, I was boarding a flight in November of last year, and when I was on the flight, I had my ear pods in, and I was hearing like a little tiny ring, and I was like, oh, it's just from the AirPods. And then I took them out, and I was like, oh, no, it's not. It's constant. So got to my hotel room, did what you shouldn't really do, and got on the computer, started Googling. I have a ring in my ear. And once I did that, you read everything horrible, and I just spiraled out of control, and went into fight or flight, panic, just all the things. And the ringing actually was getting louder because I was in that panic mode. So when the trip was over, I came home and just spiraled even deeper, and was really scared. So I started Googling uh, tinnitus coaches, and you came up. So I reached out to you, and you reached out very quickly, and I got right on board with your program and your coaching sessions, which helped me immensely. Like I don't think if I reached out to you, I would be where I am today, which is yes, I do have tinnitus, but I'm absolutely 100% habituated to it. It's there, it's a part of me. It's it's just who I am now, and I don't let it take over my life.
That's
So,
such a beautiful story. That's so nice. I remember actually one of the first consultations that we had, and I get that a lot, especially in the first consultations. The amount of, it's like we talk to each other over the whole pond. You're in the US, I'm here in Berlin, but
yeah.
you could feel the physical levels of alertness and anxiety in a person. I could see that in you, right? Like I remember you sitting in that place, and you weren't really understanding what was going on, and of course this googling had like sort of like rushed you into this panic mode. And I remember that you had a lot of questions around like, what is this going to do to me, and what's happening to me, and how is this affecting me. And I remember that we sort of like we talked about all this process, right? A lot about the fight or flight, and how about the awareness of that anxiety, and then the manifestation of the anxiety in your body is sort of a further driver of a vigilance over the tinnitus, etc. And then eventually you started understanding this a little bit. So I imagine that at the start maybe you were a little bit like, maybe not skeptic, but like, so how so how would you describe the process for you, like the first couple of weeks, or maybe when that shifting sort of took place a little bit for you?
Yeah, good question. Well, as soon as I got on board with you, I knew I was right where I was supposed to be, because you everything I asked you, you knew what I was thinking, how, why, when, where. Like you're very knowledgeable with all of that. Um, but for my shift, for me, is when we were on, I don't know which session, but let's see, you said to me, what did you said? You said to me, we started talking about, this is part of who I am now. Like it's part of me. It's signals to me. We came up with it together, like I'm alive.
Ah, I remember that.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I
like,
remember
and
that.
once I heard that, I was like, yeah, I am alive. Like this is part of me now, and let's not fight it.
Nice.
because the fighting was getting me nowhere. I kept thinking I was going to make it go away by doing X, Y, and Z. And all along, it was just pushing me further away from habituating. And then I'll never forget the key phrase you said to me is, which was the biggest shift, was, and it just clicked in my brain, was you said to me, and you said it to me multiple times, but I really, when I really got it, I got it. You said to me, let it be there. You just said, let it be there. And I started, I started letting it be there, not pushing it away, running from it, hiding, meditating away from it. I just let it be there and kind of made friends with it. And it didn't scare me as much as when I started doing that. And then I just, processed all the emotions that came with it, like the fear, the frustration, um, what else? The sadness. I just started letting all those emotions bubble up and just kind of sitting with them. And once I did all that, I I kind of made friends with it.
And and I think I remember this one because you told me, like, I remember that with the driving, right? You had one or two moments where with the
Yeah.
driving was a little bit tricky. And
Yes.
I always say to people, like, it's much more than letting it be there, because it is also about exactly what you said. It's about figuring out that emotional constellation that keeps you in this vicious loop that says, well, this is the radius which within which I can now operate having tinnitus, right? And that's like
Mhm.
sort of like your own personal confirmation of a limitation that you're living with right now. And that's one of the things that we need to get rid of. So I remember that we said, like, even when it bothers you while driving or in any other circumstance, let it bother you, because what's the worst
Yes.
that it can do to you? And then
Yeah.
you slowly but steadily confirm to yourself, and this is a core principle of acceptance and commitment therapy. You confirm to yourself that moving towards committed action, showing yourself that while symptoms may be present, you can still move and do all the things that you wanted to do. Although sometimes, especially at the start, they might be a little bit uncomfortable because you've adopted this relationship. But over time, they completely change. And of course, like a lot of people, I think probably if someone is completely new to this, have never heard something like this, they'll probably say, like, well, this is nuts what they talk about. How could you accept or let something that annoying, that scaring,
Yeah.
that intrusive simply
Mhm.
be there? And
Right.
you remember maybe something that you could say to someone like that has helped you, or from the top of your head, or
Yeah. I mean,
or
the-
just constant practice.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. The very beginning is
Yeah,
scary. I mean,
yeah,
it rocked my world.
yeah,
I got to tell you, it
yeah,
rocked my
yeah,
world.
yeah.
But I'm a fighter. I wasn't giving up. I did all the things. I, hired you. I got in your program. I started exercising more. Tried eating, like clean and I just was trying everything. I got rid of caffeine. None of those things get rid of it, by the way. But I just wanted to try different things to see what would help me. But what I think what helped me the most is just never giving up and making friends with it. I know that sounds very odd, but just like accepting it and making friends with it. Because for me, I mean, maybe some people's tinnitus goes away, but for me, mine came last year and it hasn't gone away. And I don't foresee it ever to go away, but it doesn't bother me. Now I retract that. It does bother me sometimes. Like sometimes I'll be like, oh, come on. Like, really? I don't want to, it's a little loud today, but I find that when I'm anxious or nervous or really bored is when I notice it the most. But I just, yeah, I mean, I gotta embrace. I think embracing it is
Yeah,
the answer, is
yeah, yeah,
embracing it. And it's
yeah.
part of who you are now. I know people don't want to hear that, but it's the reality. And when you fight with reality, you lose 100% of the time.
Unfortunately, yes, yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
And you know, it's so much bigger than that because if we see it for what it is, namely in most people, 99% of all cases, a benign body sensation that we're fighting, that's a little bit like fighting your breath or your heartbeat, right?
Yes.
So so
Yes.
so the way you could or I mean, for example, many people will say, well, this is wrong, there's nothing you can do. You know, like fighting the humming of your fridge. When your fridge is on, it's gonna hum, right? And when
Mhm.
you get upset about your fridge humming, then of course you can plug it out, but then your stuff goes to waste. So you better
Yeah.
leave it plugged in, and you know, why would you be upset by the humming of your fridge? So
Right.
you know what I say, it's a classification of the conditioned response that you have towards your tinnitus. And I understand that like sometimes we can get upset, but look, for me, for example, my tinnitus ramps up, like I don't get upset anymore. Like it's just, I know that's something that naturally happens, for example. And I think that's also within part of the process. So you are fully habituated, but you're still earlier on in the process, right? You have a year now with tinnitus and you've made,
Yeah.
by the way, very fast progress, right? I think you are one of the people that have like the fastest and steepest learning curve that I had in the last couple of years, from
Thank
like
you.
a couple of months of working together. And then you're like, okay, I'm good now. See
Yeah.
you later, so to say. And that was
Right.
great. It was a great experience also for me as a coach. But what I wanted to say is that it's this importance of knowing that even when it does bother you, knowing that you're okay and trusting in yourself, right? Saying like, well, this is it. I've learned to deal with this, and even if this is a little bit blech right now, I know that in an hour or two it's not blech anymore because I won't be giving a damn about it anymore. It's a little bit
Yeah.
like a headache that you have, and then it goes away, and you're like, ugh. Then it goes away, and then you're like, oh, it's gone. Look at that, you know.
Yes.
So it's a monumental shift from
Yeah.
constant anxiety, reactivity, and not knowing where to start to saying like, well, okay, once a month, twice a month, 5 times a month, it's a little bit meh, but you
Hmm.
know, in the end, it's what it is. I've learned to deal with it, and it's like nowhere near when I started dealing with this. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, when people start with it, they're just so scared.
Mhm.
And I feel like when you're anxious and scared, it's so much louder. I mean, so much louder because today I feel like it's very mild. It's just it's always there, but it's just very mild versus last year when I was so scared and I felt like it was so loud. I felt like other people could hear it. But yeah, obviously they can't. But
Mhm.
it's so fascinating too, like when you talk to other people and you bring up tinnitus, people don't really want to talk about it. They're like, oh, you have that? Oh, wow. That must be terrible.
I
And
remember that. That was a big source of anxiety for you, right?
very, very
Yeah,
big.
I remember
And
that.
I mean, it doesn't bother me anymore, but people talk, like I ran into somebody the other day and I'm all about it. Like, oh yeah, I have tinnitus. Yep. Yeah, no big deal. Whereas before
Mm,
I didn't want to tell anybody I had it because
mm,
I was ashamed or I didn't want
mm,
them to pity me or
mm.
anything like that. But today I'm like, oh yeah, I have it. Yep. Yep, I have tinnitus. You want to talk about it? But I ran into somebody who I don't know, it just came up, my tinnitus, because as you remember last year when I first got it, I got pretty depressed.
Yeah,
And I saw a therapist and I did go on some antidepressants, thinking that would cure my tinnitus, but it didn't. I mean, it helped me with my mood,
yeah,
but
sure.
I have to say today I am not on any of that.
Nice.
So, yeah,
Okay.
I actually got off of everything not too long ago, like a month ago. I was quite proud of myself. But
Awesome.
but I was talking to somebody about it. Yeah, I have tinnitus and immediately they go to, oh, oh, that must be terrible. And I said, no,
Mm,
actually, it's not. Once you become habituated to it, it's not bad at all. It's just
mm,
part of who I am. So, like, I want to kind of correct that banter, well, people, that they have because
mm,
it's not a curse or a death sentence or anything
mm,
like that.
mm.
It's just part of who you are.
It might be that it's a little bit more like that the way tinnitus in the US is a little bit seen differently than, for example, here in Europe, maybe, because I
Mm,
think tinnitus in the US is a lot related to veteran conditions, right? So a lot of
yeah.
veterans have tinnitus, and of course,
Oh,
I talk about this a lot in my podcast and other places. So if you have tinnitus together with PTSD, and maybe the onset of tinnitus is correlated with a traumatic event, like seeing someone being ripped into 20,000 pieces, then
yeah.
and at the same time you get tinnitus, then you can imagine it's a little bit worse than uh, sort of what we got, because it always, every single moment of your day, it's ringing, and this ringing has its start when you saw that person
Hmm.
being thrown
Yes.
up into 20,000 pieces. So of course, it could be that maybe, I mean, this is just a hypothesis, but this is one of my explanations for why tinnitus, of course, it doesn't have a good name anywhere, but it has
Mm,
an especially bad name in the US. And people
yeah.
are, of course, very sort of like with this, there's nothing our school medicine system can do about this. And of course, something that we also try to change with our podcasts and with trying to reach out to people to tell them, there's actually a lot that we can do. You don't need to charge people $300 for a 10-minute consultation of telling them there's nothing we can do. You can go home now and not worry about it. So
Right.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, you
But
know what's so fascinating? I have to tell you, we're talking about veterans. I messaged you about this, but I'm in a new relationship with a veteran. He was a Marine for 30 years,
wow.
and he has tinnitus.
Yeah. Mm,
Like,
yeah,
what in the world?
yeah.
Well, as soon as he told me he had tinnitus, I was like, oh my goodness, like you were just so meant for me, right?
That's awesome.
But yeah, he deals with it just fine. He's had it for a very long time. I mean, he flew helicopters and
Mm,
he had guys shooting guns right behind him in the helicopter. So all that noise, I guess he developed it that way. But
mm.
yeah, I mean, and another thing, I'm jumping all around, but like we were talking
Please do.
about how like in the US you go to like the doctor and you say I have tinnitus and immediately they're just like, "Oh, yeah, there's nothing we can do for you." So, okay, have a good day, sorry about that. I mean, they really need to get that together. Because I had doctors say that to me and it just sunk me. And
Yeah,
it's not true. Like there
it's
are
not
some,
true.
it's not true at all. There's so many things you can do, work with you and become involved in the program that helps so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's something that we want to tackle, but yeah, of course,
Yeah.
that's what we do. So it's amazing that you are willing to share your story here and to give your feedback and to
Mm.
share of how your experience was with the coaching program, with the community, with everything that we've done in the work together. So that's great. Thank you for sharing all of that, Michelle. That's
You're
really much
welcome.
appreciated.
Oh, you're so welcome. And I just want to share to your listeners, like my protocol with tinnitus back in the beginning. This was my exact protocol. So if anybody listening, can get on board to do this, but I work with you. I worked with you. I was in your program. I started art therapy, and that really started to um, like relax me. It was huge, the art therapy. And today I'm super into art. Like it's my
Nice.
medication. So it
Awesome.
was you, it was the art therapy, it was exercising, um, eating well. I did go and get a massage. I know this is a lot, but I was getting a massage twice a week.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah, I know it's a lot, but it really, really helped me. Um, and Yeah, I think that, yeah, that was my protocol. And
I love it.
yeah, here I am today.
That's
And
awesome.
I have to say, no, I don't wish that I had tinnitus, but it really grew me, and I wouldn't change anything. I really wouldn't. It really has grown me and made me see things in a different light. So,
Wow.
and I got to meet you, and yeah, and be in your energy, which really, when I was on, when some of those dark days, you really helped me out. I don't know if you remember when I was at the hair salon and I had a panic attack, and you were right there going, listen, this is what happens. You're in fight or flight. And it just, you really calmed me down. So thank you so much for all your help.
It's my absolute pleasure. I always say I can just provide the framework for you to do the progress in, sort of like a little bit like a labyrinth, and then together we find out where your exit is.
Yeah.
So it's not something that, coaching is a lot about, of course, knowing, having the knowledge, but then also asking yourself the right questions. So that's sort
Mhm.
of like where I see myself, and it's yeah, it's really, really, really nice that it has worked out so well, but it's also because were open to making that progress. And I think also because exactly what you say, you're a fighter, you never gave up on yourself. I know
Mhm.
there were moments in which you said, gee, this is difficult. I remember that. I know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Also because tinnitus was not the only thing on your plate, but
Right.
what's ever the only thing on your plate, right? So life,
Yeah.
there's never
Yeah.
only one thing on your plate. But
Yeah.
when tinnitus is on your plate, then it feels like a lot. But I remember that it was still like, even in the darkest moments, I could see this in you. I could see that eventually you would have made this progress. And that's like so gratifying as well, right? Because now I get to talk to you after you've
Yeah.
sort of like maneuvered this and come out a little bit on the other side, and we get to have a chat and sort of
Yeah.
talk about this experience, looking back and saying like, all right, this was a tricky and challenging time, but I've learned a lot of things for my life to continue, and maybe even took some things that I didn't know about myself before. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, listen, I'm gonna have something else hard is gonna come my way. This has just made me stronger, and to approach whatever comes my way. I can do it. I can do it. And tinnitus has taught me how to be strong.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, Michelle, thank you so much for sharing your story. I think all the listeners will appreciate that so, so, so much. So it's been an absolute pleasure to having you on here today. Thank you
Oh,
for taking
thank
the
you.
busy time out of your schedule. And yeah, I hope that we can keep in touch for the future. Maybe I'll be in the US at some point next year. So maybe I can let you know when I get over.
Oh my goodness, that would be such a treat. I would love that. Absolutely. Thank you for having me on. I tell people about you all the time. I'm like, this man saved me. Well, you and me together. So,
Exactly. I couldn't
yeah,
have done it without you.
yeah. You're like my angel.
Oh, thanks. That's so nice of you to say. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. If you did enjoy this video that I did with Michelle here, please subscribe, like the content, but even more so, check out the link in the description that I have for you, because you can also have your 30 minutes tinnitus coaching strategy session where I can share some insights and help you on your personal path towards tinnitus habituation, where tinnitus stops bothering you. So just check out the link in the description. We also have some goodies down there in the description for you. At www.mytinnitus.com, you can find our online tinnitus coaching program. It will be all in the description, and we would be super happy to help and support you on your individual path. And in this year, 2024, we hope to make it happen for ever more people. I've already worked with 500 plus individuals over the whole work in tinnitus coaching sessions, and we would hope to add your name to the list of people we have helped successfully to leave their tinnitus behind and to live their best life despite tinnitus. Thank you for being on this channel. Wishing you all the best, and see you in the next video. Peace out.